Welcome to the Outer Hebrides. This is the WINFL show. I'm your host, Ian McKinnon. I am joined this week by Jake McGee. Hello, Jake. Good evening.
Good evening, my friend.
Good evening to you. By Dave Somerville. Good evening to you.
Good evening from Stornoway, gents.
And all the way from Sacramento, California.
That's right.
It is the one, the only, Mr. Will Keys. A good afternoon to you, Will. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Yeah, 1 p.m. here. It's it's a privilege to be back. What's this? Number 3 for us?
I think it is number 3. Yeah, number 3. Now we are doing our AFC West deep dive, so we're going to be looking into that. Hence why we have the magnificent Will Keys here with us. But a couple of things. Well, how have you been since we last spoke to you? How's life in the US of A?
I don't know if I can speak too generally for the whole country. I don't know if you guys watch the news ever.
Well, we don't need to go too in deep, yeah.
On a more personal level, it was nice to see the Chiefs fall in the Super Bowl. I think that was right after we talked.
It was.
And if I remember correctly, my random stat last time I was on was that teams that have a pick six in the Super Bowl are undefeated.
Yes.
And wouldn't you know, Cooper DeJean, pick six in the Super Bowl. Eagles win. I don't want to toot my own horn too much there, but I don't believe in coincidences.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no. But I if I recall when it happened, he hit the pick six, and you then messaged on Twitter saying, "Check this out. How about that random stat?" And then they went on immediately, and they went on to absolutely obliterate the Chiefs. I know you enjoyed that. It wasn't a very good game from a neutral point of view. It was. But
Great.
If you're anti-Kansas City, that was wonderful. That was a wonderful game. Or indeed, if you're a Philadelphia fan.
Yeah, it was nice to relax.
Yeah.
I didn't feel totally comfortable until maybe the middle of the third quarter or whenever Devontae Smith scored that last touchdown for the Eagles.
Yeah.
But once that happened, it was like, oh, okay. I can settle in and enjoy the Super Bowl for 25 minutes.
Yes. and of course, as we know, you told us before that Brandon Perna did not then need to go to Kansas City for the parade. So he was happy about that.
Yeah, we should have sent him to Kansas City anyway. Just to do an Eagles parade there.
I think that would be more dangerous, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Did they not trash the city again?
Yeah, don't be too happy about it. Look how happy he is about that. Oh, yeah, more dangerous for him, yeah.
The point of this endeavor is not safety. It's about courage. Courage in the face of danger.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. Right, so, gentlemen, we are going to talk about the AFC West. We will jump right into it. So, last year, the Kansas City Chiefs, they ended up winning the division with a 15-2 record. The Los Angeles Chargers came second, 11-6. The Denver Broncos came in at 10-7, and the Las Vegas Raiders ended bringing up the rear with a 4-13 record. We are going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, as I say, last year, 15-2, they had a score of 385 for, 326 against, so it's a plus 59 points differential. Dave Somerville, you had the Kansas City Chiefs. Why don't you tell us all about what happened last year? And more importantly, what can we expect from them this year?
Well, this is an interesting one because we're so used to the Chiefs dominating the entire AFC year after year after year now. Last year, they didn't dominate whatsoever. The 15-2 record is the most ridiculous, and it's kind of like the Titanic's iceberg. You only get to see the top of it, but underneath there's miles of a lot more detail. They started off 9-0. Not sure how, but they did. And they've ended up with a 15-2 record, like you said. They were expected to have an easy run to the playoffs, but they really struggled and toiled. The victories that was picked out as kind of highlights or key highlights were the ones over the Texans and the Bills, because they kind of papered over the cracks that were starting to show during the season. But the Super Bowl was, to put it politely, a rude awakening. And they ran out of gas completely, and I would be not surprised if they went kind of 0-17 this year after seeing their Super Bowl run away from them with Kenny Pickett taking behind center. I mean, if you lose a Super Bowl with Kenny Pickett there, I retire. So I'm surprised Kelsey's still there. A few things of note though of that they've done during pre-season. They really focused on their offensive line. I think they saw where the cracks were really showing. Creed Humphrey, they've tied down. Trey Smith, they had him on the franchise tag. Obviously, long-term contract now. And they've also signed Jalen Moore, which is an interesting one because I think he's going to be left tackle. That's the impression I was getting. So they're going to put him there most likely, although they did draft offensive tackle who's coming off a bad injury at the end of the first round. And they've pretty much almost cleaned house in the running back room. So Elijah Mitchell comes in there. The other key aspect of the offense, though, are the backups to Patrick Mahomes, because if you have the choice between Gardner Minshew and Bailey Zappi, you are praying nothing happens to Mahomes. Minshew's deal, he gets a guaranteed $1.17 million, up to $8 million with incentives. It's all focused around the percentage of snaps. Bailey Zappi gets a 1 year, $1.1 million contract, which is $1.11 million too much, because I believe he should be paying $10,000 to even be on that roster, because that is the level that Bailey Zappi is playing. However, they have got the absolute bargain of the year in Nick Bolton, a 3-year, $45 million contract, re-signing one of the best linebackers in the entire league. A couple key exits that I've noted. Joe Thuney, it'd be interesting to see how they deal without him, without his experience there. 2023 Super Bowl hero Mecole Hardman is gone as well. They're kind of out with the old speed and in with the new, because they've got Royals in the draft in the 4th round, who is just very, very quick. And DeAndre Hopkins leaving as well is quite an interesting one. But also, one of the Chiefs' losses is the Saints' gain, which is not something that we're going to be seeing much of this year. Justin Reed is no longer a Chief and is now a Saint. And also DJ Humphries as well is gone. And I think I've noted Tershawn Wharton. If memory serves right, he signed for Carolina on a decent contract. I think it was anyway. But this is going to be an interesting year because their schedule is up and down, but they won their division. You expect them to have a hard strength schedule. Jake can probably give me the exact figure, position of their strength of schedule, because I don't have that. But yeah, that's my own little rundown of everything. Chiefs are not the Chiefs of past years, but I still think they're going to be better than the large majority.
Well, it's not really a tall order for them to do that. They just have to be as good as they were. But you said, Will, I'll throw it over to you. The Chiefs last year went, if memory serves, 11-0 in one-score games. And it was just, you're thinking, God, what do you have to do to beat these teams? Our own Broncos with a blocked field goal. That was frustrating. That was so frustrating. We had them. They were there for the taking. Didn't happen. But this happened week after week after week for these Chiefs. One player Dave didn't mention there, Rashee Rice.
He's got a 30-day jail sentence, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But he's a full participant in camp, though. So he's still, you've got Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and Xavier Worthy as the kind of 3 wide receiver starters. So Rashee Rice has got a 30-day sentence to serve, but I think they're kind of flexible with it.
I believe they're flexible with that, but there is talk of the league implementing suspensions for him as well. So, Will, get your thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs, and has their window closed even more than people thought it had last year, even though they went 15-2, as you mentioned? Do you think that this might be the year that we could finally see the Chiefs being toppled in the AFC West?
I've been actually thinking about this a lot, and usually people will tell you when you go, 9-0 in one-score games?
Something like that.
11,
yeah. Ridiculous.
Which is it's just outrageous. And everything would point to that, maybe not flipping, but evening out to some degree. And I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't know what it is, whether it's just like blind luck or they're just good. They're good in those situations. And I think winning close games is a skill that can be practiced and acquired. And it helps when you have, Mahomes and Kelsey, who are just so comfortable in those situations, and Andy Reid, who, like, we remember Andy Reid in Philadelphia was known for really poor clock management and managing these close games. And now that narrative is completely disappeared. But yeah, I mean, you want to look at the potential regression from Travis Kelsey, what we saw a little bit last year. The Rashee Rice thing, obviously he's going to have to Uber to practice every game. We'll see. I mean, he's really good when available, when his own quarterback isn't, blowing out his knee for him. Yeah, I mean, it's like the Patriots of the 2000s and 2010s, where I'm just not going to believe it until I see it. They are the, Michael Myers of the NFL, where you can do whatever you want and they're just going to get back up, I think. And so I've still got them at the top of the division personally. I see a little regression, but not anything dramatic.
Yeah, and Jake, we do talk about this. There should be an evening out. Most other teams would. We saw this a couple of years ago with the Minnesota Vikings, I think it was, where they won like 8 one-score games, and then the following season they lost like 6 or 7 of the 7 that they played in. And it should do that. But as Will says, this Chiefs team is very much like those Patriots teams. You're waiting for them to die, and they just won't die. Maybe this year will be it, but there's still a lot of talent there, and as long as Andy Reid's there and Mahomes is there, they're always going to be another chance. Jake, what do you think of the Chiefs?
Well, the Patriots were exactly who I was going to compare them to, because you have those years where, you throw 50 touchdowns and Randy Moss scores 20 of them. And then you have other years where your defense absolutely carries you. And that's what we saw last year, is that the offense certainly regressed and Travis Kelsey regressed. But it doesn't matter, because you've got Nick Bolton running Steve Spagnuolo's defense, and boom, you saw the Bengals lose however many games. I think it was 4 games where they scored 33 points. And you don't score 33 points against the Chiefs, so they don't really have to worry about that. So it's not a stat for them to worry about. Numbers-wise, for Dave, they've got the 27th strength of schedule, but they rank 14th in prep. So I've got them kind of 22nd overall. So it's not easy, but like I say, first place schedule, really tough division. So I think they would probably take that. They've got tough runs with, starting at Chargers in Brazil, followed by the Eagles. But other than the divisional games, the only ones you're really looking at are the Ravens and the Lions. I think 3 of their last 4, home to Chargers, home to Broncos, and finishing out the Raiders, those could be the really tasty ones, because this division is probably going to eat itself alive.
Yeah, and we're really hoping it is, because last year we did see, we looked at some of the teams and we thought, the Chargers and the Broncos, they got better. Now, we all knew the Chargers were going to get better when Harbaugh came in. We knew this was going to happen. It's happened before, happened in San Francisco, happened in Michigan. It was going to happen in LA, which it did. We were all very glad to see the Broncos improving the way they did with Bo Nix under center. The Raiders sort of underperformed last year, I think, as far as the talent goes. But as we will talk about them very soon, they've got a complete change of mindset, it looks like. And I think that as we look at the Chiefs, they're still the favourites to win the division. But as Will says, it could be some regression, and it might be a lot closer than people think it's going to be come the end of the season. But we are going to move on to our next team, and our next team is the Los Angeles Chargers. Last year, 11-6, 402 points for, 301 against. So they actually had a differential of 101, better than Kansas City did, with an 11-6 record. Now, when I looked at what the Chargers had done in the offseason, it was quite funny, because last year with their draft, they took Joe Alt and Ladd McConkey. We saw that, and they had great rookie seasons. Absolutely fantastic. This year with their first 2 picks, they took running back O'Marion Hampton from North Carolina, and then wide receiver Trey Harris out of Mississippi. 2 offensive weapons, which they really kind of needed, because there was some moves in the offseason, despite the fact that the Chargers didn't make as many moves as a lot of other teams. They did change a few guys around. They signed running back Naeem Himes. Mike Williams retired, which very few people saw coming. They extended linebacker Bud Dupree. That was a big thing for them to do. They released running back Gus Edwards and running back J.K. Dobbins, both of whom came in last year, both of whom came from Baltimore. So it's like they just took their 2 Ravens guys 1 year, don't like it, let's get short of these guys. I will speak about Dobbins later on, obviously. And they also released Joey Bosa. They signed Najee Harris. So they released a couple of running backs, signed a couple of running backs, drafted a running back in O'Marion Hampton, who looks absolutely fantastic. And I look at this Chargers team and I think what they did last year and what they could have been, sometimes it didn't work out, but they still finished 11-6. And Justin Herbert, again, throws some of the greatest balls you've ever seen. It's incredible how talented this guy is. But then we need to think, can they put it all together? A lot of people don't look at the Joey Bosa one as a big loss, considering he's not been particularly healthy, and they've still got Khalil Mack there as well. I think, in fact, they re-signed him to an extension. So they've got Khalil Mack. There's a lot of talent. Well, I'll throw it over to you. The Chargers do have an awful lot of talent, but we've seen in years, for decades, this team's been loaded with talent, and then when it gets to the postseason, just cannot get it done. Do you think we'll see more of the same from this team, or do you think with Hardball there and with the talent that they do have, they can sort of get it over the edge? What do you make of them?
Yeah, I mean, I think we know roughly what we're going to get out of them in the regular season, and they're going to be hovering around, I think 11 wins was probably their best case scenario last year. But I think they're like a 9-11 kind of win team. And I really don't worry too much about the skill position guys, unless Lad McConkey goes down, then I think you got a problem on your hands. But I'm really not interested in anything this team does until the playoffs. You have to. We've seen it before. They get to the playoffs in 2022. They have that 27-point lead in Jacksonville, and of course they blow it there. And then that, I wouldn't call it a collapse, but just getting handled by the Texans was, I think, a bigger shocker, especially a few months removed, than people were giving it credit for. Like the Texans were just kind of one of those bad division champions that gets the home game. And then they completely, they handled Justin Herbert. He had I know not every interception was his fault. But I'm really not interested in hyping this team up or giving them probably the credit they deserve until they get over that hump. And the Jim Harbaugh factor is interesting because his teams obviously got better as they went at Michigan. But he kind of had this reputation, in San Diego, University of San Diego, Stanford, to the 49ers, where he kind of had like a shelf life of about 4 years. And then he starts to rub people the wrong way, usually people in positions above him or with his, general manager or whoever. So I think you've kind of got this window that you have to capitalize on. And I don't think they sweep Denver again this year. I don't trust them against Kansas City. I think the Raiders are going to be better. So I think they're in that. I think they're just like kind of as stuck as any team can be in that wild card window. I don't see like a big regression. I don't see them moving forward necessarily.
And Jake, we will talk about the Raiders, later on. One of the games that this Charger team played last year against Las Vegas Raiders was one of the biggest blowouts that we've seen in a while. And they're an inconsistent team, this Chargers team. What do you make of them?
I mean, it's inconsistent in replacing Eli Apple with Benjamin St. Juste. I mean, that's like, chopping off your left arm to keep your right arm. It's going to be very interesting to see how that works out. But I think the biggest move for them was probably Mekhi Becton, who was very sought after, former first-round pick at tackle that didn't plan out, but all of a sudden 1 year in the Eagles system at guard, and everyone's like, oh, we want him. So we'll see if he can kind of continue, or was it just a one season, right place, right time? But I think, like I say, a big focus on the running game. Well, they've got a big boy in front of them to help as well. Other than the week 14-15, where they play Eagles on Monday Night Football and then follow that by at the Chiefs, they've probably got the easiest schedule in the division, which is a bit odd considering they finished second. But I think they've probably got the best shake of it. So, not to kind of repeat myself, but I think it will be, like Will said, in terms of division games, if they can sweep the Broncos again, or if they can, get the sweep over the Raiders, sure, they could win 12, 13 games. If you start losing some of those games, you're looking at 9, 10, are you going to make the playoffs? So I think that's going to be the big tell for the Chargers.
I think so. And Dave, what's your thoughts on this team? Because although, as I say, we know Herbert has got loads of talent. We've seen it. But it doesn't always translate onto the pitch. And I'm not going to start comparing him to other quarterbacks, of years gone by. But I'm going to. I just said I'm not going to. I'm going to. Because we've seen, well, you won't remember this, Dave. You're too young. But there was a guy called Jeff George. Now, Jeff George came out of college. He was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, if memory serves. This guy, first overall, surefire talent, the arm strength. He had a mullet, my goodness, and a mustache. But the arm strength was there, and he could make these incredible throws, but it didn't translate into wins. In fact, with Jeff George, it was the opposite. He was terrible. Justin Herbert has the same physical abilities. He can throw that ball 8 yards down the field on a dime, but he doesn't do it consistently. Even though we know he can do it, Dave, how much of this season is actually going to be on Justin Herbert as we look at it? We know it's the most important position, but we do see how some quarterbacks essentially have to carry their teams, whereas others, like mentioned last year with the Chiefs, the defense can do it for them. What do you make of them?
I don't think that the Chargers will be carried by Herbert in any way, shape, or form. I think they have the perfect supporting cast for a quarterback to excel in. I think he has very little excuse this year, and the Chargers in general have very little excuse, purely because they've made so many solid additions. The foundation that Harbaugh has set is immense. I'm very impressed with it. He came in, he made some brilliant, smart decisions last year, and he's continued to make the solid base for his team to excel. I think last year, the trend I was seeing with them was that they were winning games they should be winning. And in the games that they were kind of even or 50-50 with, the game could go either way, they weren't doing as well in these games. They weren't living up to what their potential could be. But if they can change some of these kind of really close marginal losses into wins, you're talking potential change at the top of the division. That's how close I think it is this year. So this is one of the closest divisions, and I think we're all going to find out that once we make our predictions as well.
Oh yeah, it's one of the few divisions that you look at. As I say, the Chiefs are 15-2 last year. I don't know if they're going to sweep all the teams in the division this year. I certainly hope they don't. But I really hope they don't. But yeah, and every team seems vastly improved. In particular, the final team that we're actually going to talk about in the division, which is the Las Vegas Raiders. Last year, 4-13. Sorry, tell her, I'm talking nonsense.
I thought you just
I skipped over the Denver Broncos.
Own team.
in my Mile High Football t-shirt. Next team we're going to talk about is the Denver Broncos, not the Las Vegas Raiders. Sorry, Christian, if you're listening, your team's up after this one. The Denver Broncos, 10-7 last year, 425 points for the most in the division, 311 against. We saw what the defense did, giving them a 114 points differential, positive 114, best in the division again. Well, we saw what the Broncos did last year. They went to the playoffs. They made a wild card, first time since 2015. And yes, the playoff game, they got beaten, but they didn't play that badly for the majority of that game, particularly the defense. You look at the scoreline and say, oh yeah, Buffalo absolutely ran away with it. But, you know, Zach Allen had a few words to say to Josh Allen on the floor a couple of times, and they really did play well, but the main story is, of course, Bo Nix. Tell us your thoughts on the Broncos 2024. What are you looking for 2025?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good, that game kind of, what it told me, and that's probably like the least upset I've ever been for a playoff loss, just because they exceeded expectations, obviously, to be there, and they hung tough for a while, and then kind of the levee just gave out, which will happen against the Bills. But I think they acquitted themselves okay, but it proved that they were a playoff team, but not on par with the big three of the AFC at that point. Obviously, the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens, and you could see that. You know, they hung with the Chiefs, and then they just got outclassed by the Ravens and eventually the Bills. And so I guess, you know, the mission there is to take that next step and start to compete with the inner circle in the AFC. So, and they were a fairly well-rounded team, I thought, last year. They had position groups that were certainly better than others, but outside of running back, I can't say that they're truly deficient anywhere. So what they did, or the way I see it, is the veterans that they got are all kind of high risk, high reward guys. Like Dre Greenlaw at inside linebacker, which was not, there wasn't a huge void, even losing Alex Singleton last year. Cody Barton played well.
Very well.
But that's a position you can upgrade. And they did, assuming that Greenlaw stays healthy, which is, honestly, that's a coin flip. Same with Hufanga at safety. Is PJ Locke he's not a bad safety. He's probably better suited, as a role player, and that's okay. But he's a coin flip. If he's on the field, if both those guys are on the field, your defense gets dramatically better and just more sound. And then they did the same exact thing on the opposite side of the ball. They get Evan Ingram, who is really good when he's healthy. He's not always healthy. J.K. Dobbins might be the ultimate example of that. Like he's one of the most injured players I can ever remember, but when he's on the field, he's also one of the most efficient running backs of all time. Mm-hmm. So I think worst comes to worst, you're playing with a similar team to last year plus the rookies. But if you can get like 3 of those 4 guys to stay healthy most of the year, I think you can live with that for sure. And I think those 4 guys really elevate them. RJ Harvey has to be good. Dobbins kind of hedges their bets there, but I expect him to factor into the passing game immediately, especially the quick passing game, which obviously they love to do. It sounds like Pat Bryant's he's really going to factor in to what they want to do. And the Michael Thomas comparisons were obviously very predictable, but I think they will use him in a similar fashion, which means he should be running about 50 slants a game. And then Yeah, I mean, I haven't even talked about their first round pick, who was Jade Barron, which surprised everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not on my radar whatsoever. I don't think on most people's radar. But it kind of reminded me of the 2014 draft when they already had Chris Harris Jr. They had just signed Aqib Talib.
That's right.
I said, we're just going to take best player available. Just so happens the best player is another cornerback.
Well, yeah.
Is it a bad idea to have too many cornerbacks? No, like absolutely not. You get Moss and PS2 on the boundary. Barron's pretty versatile. He can play just about anywhere. And then McMillan and Abrams Drain as depth are some of the best 4 or 5 corners you can get out there. So I want to say like they're going to take a big jump this year. But on the other hand, as we've been discussing, this division is really, really good. And I guess I'll save my prediction, but they're going to be a better team for sure. I don't know if that gets reflected in the record immediately, but they're creeping up towards the upper echelon in the AFC.
Oh, definitely. And Jake, I'll throw it over to you because we looked at, Will mentioned they drafted Barron there at the first round. They signed Tufanga. They signed Greenlaw. Cody Barton's now gone, but they should be getting Alex Singleton back because he missed the season with an injury.
Yeah.
But it's not like the Broncos were replacing gaping holes that they had. This is one of the top defenses in the entire NFL last year. And it almost seemed like, do you know what? We can make ourselves a bit better. Just a little bit better. Because they did, the Bills did go off on them in the wild card. T. Higgins absolutely killed our second string cornerbacks. He was just left wide open. The game against the Bengals, he went for like nearly 200 yards, I think it was. And so when you look at these teams, the game against Baltimore, they just struggled to keep up with the top teams. Although they did play Kansas City close, they always do. Bringing these guys in is this is just to get us a bit closer, because then once you are that bit closer, all you need is a little bit of luck, and then you can win some of these games. So looking at the Broncos, Jake, what do you think of their what they've done in the off-season? What do you expect from them this year?
Well, I think you look at the Texans last year and the Commanders this year. When you hit on a rookie quarterback, the best thing you can do is bring in veterans and surround them with talent. And, this year, the Patriots brought in a lot of offensive weapons to help Drake May because God knows he needs it. Well, the best thing you can do for Bo Nix is give him a great defense, because how many times do you see a Sean Payton Saints team have to score 50 points because the defense was rotten? So you give Bo Nix, Evan Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, Pat Bryant, R.J. Harvey, you give him weapons, but you're also saying, hey, listen, if we go 3 and out, don't worry, we'll get you the ball back. So I think it's a great position for him to be in. For the season ahead, you kind of have to hit the ground running because you've got the Titans and then at the Colts. But that's followed by at Chargers, Bengals on Monday Night Football, and then the Eagles. And after the bye, you've got the Raiders, Chiefs, and end the season with the at Chiefs and the Chargers. So if you get a slow start, things can snowball. So I think a very strong start for the Broncos, build up a bit of confidence, and Sean Payton will have you believing that you can take off like a rocket.
Well, he's going to be confident in what the team could do. You absolutely know this. Dave, we're talking about Sean Payton as Will was saying with the RJ Harvey comparisons we're getting made. Pat Bryant compared to Saints players. RJ Harvey comes in, it looks a bit like Darren Sproles because he's quite short. Let's go with that. Pat Bryant comes in, he's a big guy. Michael Thomas, they're always going to do this. But I don't mind that they're talking about these kind of things, because for the first time in a long time, we don't have to see that stupid graphic of the carousel with the quarterbacks going round and round and seeing pictures of Case Keenum and Joe Flacco and Brock Osweiler twice. And I don't need to see that anymore. I know Will's glad we'd never need to see that again. Although they'll probably do it in week 1. They'll probably do it in week 1 just to go.
We can get one more.
Yeah, because this is the end of it, so they'll probably do it once.
Spins off of its axis and just starts rolling into a mountain or something.
Bursts into flames and rolls away into the Rockies. Yeah, but Dave, the Broncos have done some nice things here. They've brought in some good players. What do you think of their chances at possibly, and it is possibly, maybe even toppling the Chiefs in the AFC West?
Well, they definitely got the players to challenge for it anyway. And I mean, look, I was looking at some of the stats of your defense from last year. I mean, everything bar like 2 out of about 20 different, well, how would you call it? Metrics? I don't know. Like stat lines.
Metrics,
metrics, stat lines. 2 out of about 20 of the main ones were single digits, so between first and ninth on that defense, and the other 2 were 11th tied kind of thing. Every single game, except from the Ravens demolition about halfway through the season, was lost by 1 score. Every single game of the Broncos last year was lost by 1 score, including the game against the Bengals when it went to overtime. Yeah. By the way, Higgins got 130 something yards in that game. So just put it out there. He also got 3 touchdowns.
It felt like 200.
Yes, I bet it did. But between him and Jamar Chase, it was like 250 yards between the 2 of them. So, it helps to have a lot of cornerbacks. But, the Broncos, just like the Chargers, are going to challenge this year. Unless they get a horrific injury-prone season. That's the only thing that would really stop them. Because when they won, they've got multiple score games all year. Yeah, their wins. Early on, it was one of the worst games I've ever seen was when they beat the Jets 10-9. That was that. I've got PTSD from that. You've got the Bucks. They hammered the Raiders. They hammered the Saints. Sorry, Jake. The Panthers. They hammered the Falcons. They annihilated the Raiders. They beat the Browns. They beat the Colts. They beat the Chiefs. They hammered these teams, but then they lost some close games. Obviously it was 10-7. That could have been 12-5, 13-4. Just those 1-score games. It's like with the Chiefs. I mean, Chiefs could have lost 2. It could have been 2-15. Instead of being 50. Okay, maybe not quite, but you know what I mean. It's so close. A few of these results changing, they could be right up there as one of the top seeds in the AFC, and they could win their division. The problem for them, though, is their strength of their division this year is immense. Mm-hmm. So it's a huge challenge. I think they're going to be up for it, especially with Sean Payton there. If he's got those players ready to run through brick walls for him, just no one wants to play the Broncos this year at all. Yeah,
I was watching, I'm going to get the name wrong now. It's the one that Brett Coleman does. It's a bootleg football. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yes.
On YouTube. And when he was covering the Denver Broncos, he said they had an average margin of victory of 18 points last year.
Yeah.
Which was the best in the NFL. I was like, I can't be right. But he was.
They did get the benefit of playing the NFC South.
Yes.
I will say.
They did.
That's what you do. That's what good teams do. They hammer bad teams. You can't apologize for who you're going up against.
No, you're absolutely right. And we've said it before, good teams will play another good team and say, well, if you're ready to play and, you game plan, we will play you for 60 minutes.
I'll give you a quick early random stat though about the Broncos. So obviously they played the 4 NFC South teams, as Will said there. Mm-hmm. The average score by an NFL South team against the Broncos last year was 9.
9 points for
9 points. Yeah,
the most.
Yeah.
It was the Panthers, I believe, with 14 points. Yeah, okay. Saints 10. Bucks 7 and the Falcons 6.
Yeah. But so as I was saying with the teams that you play, a good team, if you're ready to play, we'll play you for 60 minutes. But if you're not ready to play, we will beat the living hell out of you. And for the first time in years, the Broncos were able to do that. And I loved it. I rewatched highlights of this past season. I watched Bo Nix's highlights. I watched highlights of Nick Bonito's highlights. First time I've done that in years. Went back and watched highlights of the Broncos. Thinking, I want to actually enjoy myself and watch some good football. So I did. That was great. And I'm hoping to do that much more this year. But we are going to move on. This time, I promise, it is the Raiders. get there. So last year, 4-13 record for the Raiders, 309 for, 434 against. Points differential of negative 125 points. Quite a difference there for the Raiders. Jake, the Raiders. Last year, Brock Bowers was amazing. Take it away.
Yeah, Christian, just stick with me, because we'll talk about last year where their passing offense was 24th, their rushing offense was 32nd, their pass defense was 24th, their points scored was 29th, points allowed 28th. That points differential, despite it being horrendous, was only 27th. Their run defense, though, was 10th. So, hey, they could stop the run. Positives. Their strength of schedule is 18th. Their preparation is 32nd in the league. If you are coming off a bye, you are most likely playing the Raiders or the Commanders. It is ridiculous when I was going through these teams. So many teams coming off a bye have the Raiders or the Commanders, and it's just not fun for the Raiders this year, looking at their schedule. Week 8 bye, followed by the Jaguars, who are coming off a bye. They have a Thursday night game against Denver, then a Monday Night Football versus Dallas, who are coming off their bye. And then got a tougher stretch of week 13 at the Chargers coming off their bye. Broncos, then at the Eagles, and then Texans before they finish the season versus the Giants and the Chiefs. So their schedule and the rest is going to be brutal. Now, positives. I'll start off by saying they've saved themselves millions of dollars by getting Max Crosby sorted long before Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. So a competent head office at Las Vegas is not something really you had on your bingo card, but they got Max Crosby done before the train came in. And, that is saving millions a year easily. The defensive line with a healthy Max Crosby, hopefully a healthy Christian Wilkins. I think he played something like 22% of the snaps last year. Not what they signed him for. I think he played or missed about 5 games in his entire career before that. It was just the curse of spending money on a free agent that he's going to get injured. Malcolm Kuntz missed the entirety of last year injured. They've showed so much promise the year before that the Raiders are giving them $11 million 1-year prove-it deal because they believe in the talent so much that hopefully he can bounce back from such an injury. The biggest upgrade being probably the coaching. We've got Pete Carroll out of the retirement home. He's brought Chip Kelly with him. I think probably one of the biggest things for me was keeping hold of Patrick Graham, who's a fantastic defensive coordinator. And then offensively, there's no bigger upgrade than their quarterback room, going from Aiden O'Connell and a bunch of misfits to bringing in Geno Smith, who's just kind of found his feet in Seattle, where a coach believed in him, and that coach was Pete Carroll. So he'll be quite happy. He's got Ashton Genty, who's going to love Chip Kelly's running system. You mentioned Brock Bowers. Absolute phenomenal wide receiver / tight end, because you can't really call him a tight end. He's just here, there, and everywhere. Jack Besh kind of fits exactly what the Raiders want to do. Him and Jacoby Myers are just going to be dirty wide receivers. They're going to get physical. They're going to just run 10, 15 yards, push off a defender, not get called for it, catch a ball. They're just physical wide receivers. They lost Trevor Morrig, Nate Hobbs, Robert Spillane is a huge loss. Jermaine Pratt comes in, Eric Stokes comes in, Jeremy Chin, a good veteran comes in, but they're, I would say pretty much all of them are downgrades on who they're replacing. Offensively, they brought in one of the worst guards technically in the league in Alex Kappa, if you go by his PFF, but that's kind of a 1-year dip. They're praying that he kind of rebounds after that. I think you can't really look at the Raiders and say they could have had a better offseason or tried more. You can certainly not doubt them for trying. They've brought in competent coaches. They've brought in a stable quarterback. They've drafted well. They've tried to not overspend, because Morrig they would have loved to keep, but I think it was the Panthers that ended up signing him, gave him a boatload. Spillane is a massive loss. I think he's going to do amazing things in another Patriots-esque defense with Vrabel. So that would be the biggest loss for me. But overall, really good offseason. Will look to certainly improve. But schedule-wise and rest-wise, it is going to be tough in this division. Because if you're in the NFC South, I'm saying Raiders probably win the division. I think we'll see when you do the predictions. They'll probably be in the same place for all of us, and it's a shame because it's not fair. But that's the NFL. It swings and roundabouts.
It is swings and roundabouts, and so being a Broncos fan, as you are, as I am, I'm sure you despise the Raiders just as much as I do. I hate this organization. Everyone knows I hate it. Our good friend Christian, who's probably listening, no offense to you, I hate your team. The other team that I hate, and you guys know this, is the Seattle Seahawks. I hate the Seahawks. I hate Pete Carroll. I hate Geno Smith. I hate everything about that organization. Bringing them to the Raiders and then having Tom Brady as a part owner of this organization is, I mean, if ever I wanted a team to go 0-17, it's right now. Unfortunately, they do have a lot of talent. They are a great team. I say a great team. They've got some great players. Max Crosby is one of the biggest game wreckers. We've seen what he's done to our team time and time again. Brock Bowers, sensational year last year. There's absolutely no reason to expect him to regress with a massive upgrade to the quarterback position. So what do you make of the Raiders this year? Jake did mention that they've got a very tough run at it through the whole year. But on paper, they really should improve, despite the fact that I really hope they don't.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about Pete Carroll since he was at the University of Southern California. There's just been a constant thorn in my side for about 2 decades now, and probably will continue to be for probably as long as he's alive. I do think he might coach forever. But obviously Carroll and Geno Smith and Chip Kelly, it just raises the baseline competency of this team. They were so disjointed. I was going to say last year, but really the last 3 years.
Yeah.
You can go on for a really long time if you want to play that game. But they just have like these adults in the room, and I think it all kind of unfortunately stems down from their minority owner, Tom Brady, because he knows what he's doing, I think. But the guy I want to talk about who might scare me, he scares me more than any player in this division as an opponent, and that's Ashton Jeanty. I don't know if you guys watch a lot of Mountain West football over there.
Not a lot.
But he's really the best college running back I've ever seen. I watched a lot of Boise State, always have, and he might be the hardest player to tackle that I've ever seen. He just go watch his highlights, and there's a lot of highlights because he was just routinely running for 200 yards, like in the first 3 quarters against teams, and he just doesn't go down. I really think that you can argue how valuable a commodity that a running back is, no matter how good they are, or where they took him, which I think was 6th. But it really, it broke my heart 2 years in a row that the Raiders get these really good skill position players in Bowers and Jeanty because they're both fantastic. And I really think Genty's going to end up being like one of the top 5 to 10 running backs of the 21st century. I know that sounds like hyperbole, but he is so good. But with this team, you do make a trade-off. Like when you pick these like really high-powered skill position players early in the first round, is the quarterback position still not, obviously you get Geno Smith, but you don't necessarily have like a long-term plan there. And that's my problem with this team, looking at it from a neutral perspective, is what's the end game? I don't like Pete Carroll and Geno Smith and Chip Kelly and all these moves they make have given them a little, aura of respectability. And they're not a laughingstock anymore. And I think that's a great thing to be as an organization. Does it make them the best team in this division at any point over that lifespan with Carroll and Geno? Probably not, unless they get really, really lucky. So I see them as just like this team that's just going to hover. You can't go 8-8 anymore, but if you could, I think, they're like an 8.5 team if there ever was one. And that's certainly an improvement, but like, I don't know that you want to be in this type of purgatory in a division and in a conference that's so good. I think you kind of want to like bottom out and find a game changer at quarterback, but I could be wrong, and Gino could just he could get even better. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, Dave, the thing with Gino is that he could be the Gino from 2 years ago, or he could be the Gino from 5 years ago. We don't know what we're going to get out of this guy because he had his best season under Pete Carroll in Seattle, like by far and away. It was a resurgence. We look at Gino, as you mentioned, the weapons of Ginty and, Brock Bowers, and they've got some good players. And then on that defense, there are some scary guys there. It should be more stable, as far as the Raiders are concerned, as stable as they can get, with the exception of the owner. Very strange man. But this Raiders team is poised to improve. It's poised to make a move and challenge for the playoffs for the first time in quite some time. What do you make of the Raiders for this year?
Yeah, I accidentally predicted them to do quite well last year, so maybe I was just a year behind. But because I crystal ball, that they are going to do a lot better this year. I've been seeing Geno Smith twice a year for the past good few years now, and I've always thought he's a good quarterback, but I've never been scared to see him line up against my team. Okay, I've just never. So I don't underestimate him, but I don't think he's going to take the Raiders to where they need to be to eclipse Chiefs, Chargers, or the Broncos. They're going to finish fourth in my book again, but they've made a good start. Can I also point out I never mentioned the name of my team, like I always do. Anyway, but the Raiders, I think they're going to be undone probably by the schedule and also just the Vegas effect. It seems to be that they just haven't kicked on. They're still they've still got trauma from having Josh McDaniel there for, it's that would be, anyone would have that, except from New England. So
Will and I still have trauma from Josh McDaniels in 2010. Yes.
Yeah, but I think they're going to do a lot better. Just not good enough, and we're a year too early for them to even consider challenging the top teams in the division. When I say top teams, I just mean the other three.
Will raises a great point. You're in an absolute awful division to be, mediocre. The Steelers, even in a less competitive division, are sick of going, 9-8, 10-7, because you're always picking like 16th. You're not getting one of the elite guys. You're not winning playoff games, but you're getting to the dance. Would it be better for the Raiders just to absolutely blow it up? In 2 years' time, they get an elite quarterback and maybe Patrick Mahomes is retired or something's happened. Justin Herbert's been traded, and all of a sudden, there's a gap in the division, and all of a sudden, we can fly. Because at the moment, realistically, they're gonna be exactly what kind of we expect the Steelers to be. So it's horrible because as an owner, obviously, you want to win games, and as players, you want to win games, and as a fan, you have a lot more fun when your team wins games. But what is the 5-year plan? Which is exactly the Will's point. In 2 years, if we're back to the Raiders being 4 wins and not having a quarterback, you're like, was it really worth that 7-win season?
That's a good point because, Will, as you said, Geno Smith, and, hands up to Geno. He's a good player. How many years has he got left in him? And if he's not the guy, then are you going to be a 7-8 win team for the next 2, 3, 4 years with Geno and not get a decent draft pick for a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, you can't ever bank on, okay, we're going to be bad and a quarterback will magically fall to us. Because it could, you could be 2023 or last year's draft where there just aren't that many options. But it raises your chance of finding one of those guys immediately. I think it's hard for, I don't know, it kind of speaks to Tom Brady as an owner. I don't think he's going to be complacent with like any sense of a rebuild. I don't think he's that guy to tear it down. I think he's just too competitive to have a 3-4 win season. And that might get them into some trouble. I don't know. It might just get them stuck. All I know is things are really going to have to break their way to make the playoffs. I don't think it's impossible. But then if they get in, I don't see them advancing. So
yeah,
they're just going to be a really annoying team, I think. That's their destiny. Is they're going to be like, oh shit, we have to we'll probably beat the Raiders, but it's just going to be a hard watch. You're going to look up and Genty's going to have 160 yards, and Bowers is going to have 11 grabs, and you're going to win by like a point. It's just going to be an awful experience.
It's going to be an experience, that's for sure. So we'll need to wait and see what kind of experience it's going to be. That essentially wraps up our deep dives for each of the teams, but we do still have to do our predictions for some records. Jake McGee, would you like to go first with your predictions for the AFC West 2025 records?
Sure, and I'll start off by saying I didn't realize I did this, but everybody in the division goes 3-3. You're going to split every division game somehow. I've got the Chiefs winning 13-4, so they do regress a little, but still hit the over. The Chargers and the Broncos, I don't know if I did this on purpose, just same records, 11-6, 10-7. And the Raiders do improve to 7-10. So, you win 7 games. If you looked at it last year, they would probably take that, but you're going to end up with the 17th overall draft pick, so congrats.
I'll give you mine next. Ours are almost identical. Essentially, at the beginning, I've got Kansas City 13-4, picking up the 3rd seed in the AFC. I've got the Denver Broncos coming 2nd in the division with 11-6, picking up the 5th seed. I've then got the Chargers, also 11-6, but not doing so well in the division. 7th seed, 3 teams in the AFC West making the playoffs. And then I have the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm giving them some love because I think Geno does do well. I've got them 9-8. Got to be all 4 teams with a winning record in the AFC West. This is everything being equal. Nobody gets injured, of course. Will, would you like to chuck us out a prediction? Keep in mind that you can absolutely change this the week before kickoff.
I will reserve that right.
Absolutely, of course.
Until the moment the ball is kicked. I'm going to say it's going to be a dogfight. I think the Chiefs, because they have the horseshoe lodged in their posterior, 12 wins, 5 losses. Broncos go 11-6, so I think they're a much better team. But that only shows up with 1 more win. Then the Chargers are, I think, right behind them at 10-7. And the Raiders not too far behind, 8-9. So I think this is one of the it probably is the most competitive, crowded divisions. And I think I just gave the Chiefs that top spot by default. But like I said earlier, I'm just going to have to see it to believe it. Hopefully I do see it. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I wouldn't count on it just yet.
I wouldn't count on it either. Dave Somerville, what's your predictions for the AFC West?
Well, just to round off, we are all very similar. I think we're all thinking along the same lines. Much improved Raiders and Chiefs are going to win it regardless. And the Chiefs are going to win it in my predictions with an 11-6.
Oh, okay.
Regression.
Then that is going to regression. That is going to be the 3rd seed in the AFC, behind Buffalo and Baltimore, and with the Texans as a 4th seed. Now, next is the LA Chargers with an 11-6 record also. And they get the 5th seed in the AFC. The Denver Broncos get the 7th seed with a 10-7 record, and they will travel to Baltimore in the playoffs.
Oh dear.
So that will happen, and the Chargers will travel to Houston, of course, because they're the 5th seed. The Raiders will improve just short of the winning record. They'll get an 8-9 record, and they'll set the foundation for a challenge next year. But Chiefs going to win it 11-6. Chargers second, 11-6. Broncos 10-7. Raiders 8-9.
I'll be surprised if what did you say the Chiefs have? 11-6.
11-6.
If that gets you the 3rd seed in the AFC.
Well, that would mean that the Texans, because my prediction for the Texans is 8-9.
So winning the division.
Winning the division. The Jaguars also 8-9, but they completely miss out.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that basically wraps up what we're looking for in the AFC West for this one here. So, gentlemen, we do have time for one more segment, which is, of course, Random Stats. Will, you are our guest. You can choose. Do you want to go first, second, third, or fourth with your random stat?
I'll go first.
Okay, lovely.
I'll lead it off. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Washington Commanders, really the Washington football entity, has been in the news recently.
Yes.
So I figured I'd do something with them. The longest rush in Washington history is 90 yards. And the running back was not John Riggins or Clinton Portis or even someone like Alfred Morris. And the quarterback was not Joe Theismann or Mark Rippon or really anybody that you would think of handing the ball off. The owner of the longest rush in Washington history is Adrian Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
And the quarterback who gave him the ball is Mark Sanchez.
I don't believe you. So, what?
Well, you shouldn't. I just made it up. No.
Adrian, I thought you were going to, we've lost Dave. Dave disappeared.
Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back, but we can't see you, David. That's okay.
I'm so.
Oh,
here.
I know you're still.
Though.
That's okay. It's just your camera. Don't worry about it. Did you hear Will's random stat there?
It kind of cut out, but I heard. I came back and heard Adrian Peterson.
Yes, so that he has the longest rush in Washington football team's history, and he was handed off by Mark Sanchez.
Wow.
I honestly thought you were going to say someone like Ernest Biner, or
You'd think so, yeah.
yeah. Or, did Brian Mitchell play running back for them? I can't remember.
He did, yeah.
I know he was a returner, somebody like that, but Adrian Peterson.
Yes, this was 2018. And he was 33 years old at the time. Let me find out what week it was. But he ran for 1,000 yards with Washington, if you can believe it. I have no memory of him playing for Washington.
Mark Sanchez didn't fumble the snap, so that's something.
Hey!
Came against the... Let's see.
Adrian Peterson.
Probably the Giants. It's not saying the longest, but yeah, it was 2018.
Wow. That's a great stat. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all. Wonderful. Dave Somerville, if you're still out there in the ether, would you like
Yes,
to go?
I am
Would
still
you,
here.
I could see an Elgato picture. Would
There
you
we go.
like to go for next for your random stat?
Yes, of course. Now, take your minds back to 1960, because what happened in 1960 was that the San Francisco 49ers brought into the league and made it a more household thing, the shotgun formation. Now, that was by the term was coined by the head coach at the time was Red Hickey, which is a great name, if I do say so myself. So John Brodie was the first NFL shotgun quarterback. He beat out Y.A. Tittle for the starter job that year, 1960, because he was a lot more mobile in his movement to basically be effective in running that formation. However, my random stat is that neither Joe Montana or Steve Young ever took a single snap out of shotgun formation for the San Francisco 49ers.
Wow.
I don't believe you. I said I didn't believe.
I didn't. Well, I checked two different sources. So if there is, someone please send us the video. Send us it on X.
Well, I mean, the thing is that through the 80s and even into the 90s, the shotgun wasn't really run by that many teams. The Bills ran it all the time with Jim Kelly. He was permanently in the shotgun. John Elway.
Joe Namath was quite big with it for the Jets.
Because of his knees, really, because his knees were so bad.
Yeah,
Couldn't drop back.
that's why Dan Marino was the same. Yeah, his knees were knackered. But I don't believe you.
Well,
I can't believe that.
I've got kind of a similar tidbit.
Go for it.
That I've been sitting on for a while. It was the a much more recent example of this. The 2005 Seahawks went to the Super Bowl. Not a single shotgun snap that entire year. In 2005.
Wow.
That's
They ran
crazy.
more wildcat than shotgun.
Yeah.
That's absolutely bonkers.
They were still running split backs in the backfield.
Now, I love a split back formation. I like that. That's good old-fashioned football.
Sweep.
Oh, can't beat it. Dave, that is a wonderful stat, if that is true. I said I didn't believe Will. I certainly don't believe you.
Okay. I mean, I've never got one wrong on this show before, have I?
I don't know.
I think I have.
I think you have.
4. Yeah. Okay.
But see, now
there's my random stat.
But now that you mention it, I'm trying to recall Joe Montana, and every time I do, he's under center. Every single time. That is wonderful. Thank you, Dave. Why don't I go next, and then Jake, you can finish us off? Like some of that? Okay. My random stat concerns the AFC West, because that's the division we're covering. In particular, it concerns the Los Angeles Chargers. Because we have a returning Dave. Good to see you again, Dave.
Unplugged it, plugged it back in.
That always works.
The old classic.
Last year, the 2024 season, the Los Angeles Chargers had 182 offensive drives. Okay? They committed 8 turnovers on those drives. That gives them a 4.4% percentage turnover. The drives ended in turnovers. That was the lowest since the 2019 New Orleans Saints, who, with 173 drives, committed 7 offensive turnovers, which is 4.0%. But is the second lowest. This stat goes as far back as 1998. Can't find any information pre then. Got this from Pro Football Reference. And I'm sure you're all wondering, well, if that's the lowest, who's got the highest?
Jameis Winston.
Not even close. I did look up Jameis Winston and the 30 interception. No, not even close. They barely scraped 20%. In 2006, sorry, Christian, the Oakland Raiders, on 180 offensive drives, turned the ball over 45 times. 25% of their drives ended in an offensive turnover. Now you think you'll average what? Between 8 and 12 drives per game for an offense, depending on what the other, give or take. So you were almost guaranteed a minimum of 2 turnovers from the Raiders on every single game. 45 drives. Turnovers from 180 drives. That is my random stat.
Such a bad team. That was one of the worst teams I've ever seen. I remember, I believe they won a game against the Steelers that year without putting up 100 yards on offense.
That's bad.
Yeah.
That is so bad. Yeah. So yeah.
I gotta double check that.
So there you go. That's my random stat. Jake McGee, why don't you finish off our podcast with your random stat?
Well, we've had some unbelievable stats, so I'll bring you some very believable stats. And we're looking at best division in the NFL since 2020, but looking at win percentage in non-divisional games to make it a bit fairer, because if you've got a really tough division, that's not very fair. Now, coming in first, maybe no surprise, the AFC North, who have gone 128 to 85, a 60% win. We then have a bit of a gap to your AFC West, going 119 to 97, which is 55.1%. We then have the NFC North, the NFC West, the NFC East, and the AFC East. And no surprise that there then is a humongous gap to the NFC South, who went 90 and 126 for 41.7%.
Ooh.
And even worse, the AFC South, who went 78 to 138, 36.1%. So we know who the good divisions are. We know who the good conferences are. But you can always rely, in this decade at least, in the South to suck.
I mean, 36% winning percentage outside your division. That is horrendous. Oh my word. Wow.
But believable.
Very believable. Absolutely. Absolutely. There we go. You know, as Dave said, the Texans might win the division with an 8-9 record next year for the AFC South. It's a possibility. Gentlemen, that does in fact wrap up our podcast. Will Keys, thank you very much for joining us again. It has been a pleasure, as always.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you guys for letting me back a third time.
I will be happy to have you back a fourth time.
That's the most unbelievable stat. I got back for a third time.
When we do our episode pre-kickoff, if you would like to join us for that, and we'll get your predictions for Super Bowl winners and MVP and Rookie of the Year and all that kind of stuff. That would be great if you would join us for that one. That will be hopefully not too long an episode, but we are hoping to get a few guests on just to give us our predictions, and we'll see who is closest at the end of the year, who gets the bragging rights, who's the best.
Dynamite.
Yeah, because as you may or may not recall, well, Jake McGee actually, I'm doing that. He's over here on my screen. Got the closest score in the Super Bowl.
I was just like one of 3 people to actually pick the Eagles. You know,
You
I'm
were.
about 20.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
Really, I my odds were great. If the Eagles
I mean, they were. So if he
I'm
wins,
glad you won it.
well, if he wins it again this year, there's going to be a Jake McGee trophy.
They're going to name after me.
We
I'll
can't.
be like the Vince Lombardi of podcasts.
We cannot have that. So someone else needs to do that. You can't have a Jake.
If
McGee
I get it, I might go pick up that trophy in person.
You absolutely should. You should. Right. So, Jake McGee, possibly the trophy be named after you. Thank you very much for stopping by this evening.
Always a pleasure. I'm just prepping, ready for round 2.
Dave Somerville, thank you very much for stopping by.
I'm going to make my first apology that I wasn't completely right with my random stats. What my random stat was, Jake, put your headphones back in. What it was, neither of them have scored a touchdown from shotgun, but they both scored rushing touchdowns. They never rushed for a touchdown out of shotgun formation. So I do apologize to everybody.
Okay.
It's still a weird stat, but basically none of them took snaps out of shotgun. It's all under 10%. So there you go.
We'll take it.
It's close. It's close.
But
I'm just saying it's close. I'm ending it with that. It's close.
It's still close. I'm going to take it, but I can see Jake's looking at me like I'm a disappointed parent at this point. It's a weekly occurrence.
Yeah,
it's got a weekly occurrence at this point. But thank you for having me as always.
You've literally had a week to research this. An entire week.
I ran out of plays to look at. I was looking for every play.
Will Keys is on here and he's like, what is happening in Scotland? What is in the water with these guys?
That's why he wants to come to investigate.
Usually whiskey. Just saying.
That's right.
Usually whiskey.
Alcohol.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But listen, Will, thank you very much once again for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Great. Thank you to everyone listening at home. Don't forget you can find us on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, YouTube, the WINFL Show. And we will see you on next week's edition of the WINFL Show.
And we're clear.